It's just a stats. Reggie Johnson, Eugene Morgan, coming to you from the lovely city of Atlanta, Georgia, and we have a special presentation here for you today, and that is, it's interesting, Eugene, because we're talking about for people who are on the YouTube channel. Welcome to the YouTube channel, and can see. I'm going to explain this for our podcast audience here, and you know, when I was trying to think of who the worst NFL owners were, Dan Snyder just dropped from the heavens for me, man. I'm thinking like, I think he's got to be the worst. And that was just spitballing, man. I'm like, we got to, because initially when we were going to do this show, we were going to talk about some bad owners and stuff.
Right.
Different places and everything. And I thought, this guy just particularly sucks, though. Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
You got to go back to like owners that have been accused of like racism, sexual assault, nature, like that's where he's operating, man. Right? He's operating in that.
Right.
You can't just talk about the money with the guy. You got to talk about how horrible of a franchise this was here, and how horrible this franchise was ran with Daniel Snyder there. And this is now let's think about this too. He bought the franchise in '99. He bought it from Jack Kent Cooke's estate. And he paid $800 million for it. And that was in 1999. This article came out, this ESPN article came out in October of 2022. Look how many years there. So it's 2 decades.
Yes.
Of complete debauchery there and mismanagement. So we're going to talk today about an article. We're going to have some stats from this article on The Athletic. And the article is written by Larry Holder and Greg Rosenstein. And it's the title of the article is 27 QBs, 10 coaches, 6 playoff appearances since 99. And we love the stats here. So we're going to pull them up. We're going to have them up on the screen here. Let's go full screen so people can get a chance to see just how much this team really sucked under his leadership. Now, what's crazy is there are other owners that have sucked, Eugene. And some of these owners have been criticized because of things like Art Modell, like moving his team. When Art Modell decided to move the team to Baltimore, of course, people were upset about it. And he moved a legendary team, the Browns' legendary team.
Right.
Moved the Browns to Baltimore, and people, of course, still hate him for that. But when you look at how things have turned out for Baltimore since being in Baltimore, how do you knock that move? They've had a couple of Super Bowl championships since then.
Yeah, and they're a winning franchise. They're you're always they don't hang around the cellar for too long.
And what's interesting is that's the opposite of direction of how the Cleveland Browns gone. So I have a hard time including Art Modell and just the worst owners. Now, when you juxtapose that against some of the best owners, legendary owners like the Maras and the Rooneys, who I love, I love the Rooneys.
Yep.
Love the Steelers. Mars with the Giants. Al Davis, the Raiders, like this, that's a bygone era of owners that are just legendary as their teams are. I think you still have Jerry Jones around here now. And once Jerry Jones is not in control of the Cowboys, hard pressed to see how many other teams have ownership like that. And Washington was a legendary team at one point, when they had Joe Gibbs there, right? Joe Gibbs. 3 Super Bowl wins, 83, 88, 92. They were a legendary team.
Right.
They were a legendary team. Now, as we're looking at, I'm going to display this on the screen here for our podcast audience here. We're at 0 Super Bowl wins. I don't really think that's one to have to explain. If you've been paying attention in the NFL, of course they haven't won. They're barely winning games, period.
Right.
More or less making it to playoff games, So, of course. Now, the 6 playoff appearances in 24 seasons, and none into the NFC Championship game, by the way. 4 losses in the wild card round, 2 in the divisional round. It's pretty horrible. Before we even get to any of the off the field stuff, right? This is just discussing the on the field stuff. We haven't even gotten to the sexual harassment and all that other stuff here. His overall record was I think he's under 220. I gotta pull up his overall record here, so I'm gonna get those stats up because I don't see those here.
Yeah, I think it's a 427 win percentage or something like that.
427. Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. And you know what's crazy, because you can't fire an owner. They say it's 164 and 220, 2 ties in there for people who care about that. But 164 wins to 220 losses. This is a situation where a lot of times they say you can't fire the owner, Eugene, but you want to fire the owner.
Yeah.
Right. 4 NFC East titles in about 20 years, man. 23 years, 24 years of ownership. But the most recent did come in 2020 with a 7-9 record. My bad. I mean, I want to kind of give him credit for that, but you had a losing record, and that means the NFC East was just horrible. That's when the NFC least days.
Yep.
Right. Let's go through the 3 double-digit win seasons. Snyder's teams have reached the 10-win mark in only 3 of his 24 years in charge. Last team to accomplish this was in 2012 under coach Mike Shanahan, rookie quarterback Robert Griffin III, who won Offensive Rookie of the Year's honors. They had like some prosperity there. That's when they had him and Kirk Cousins. Remember those years where they had Griffin and they didn't know, was it going to be Griffin? Was it going to be Kirk? I think Mike Shanahan wanted Kirk. I think somebody, I don't know if it was Snyder who wanted Griffin, but I do remember there being some issues around the time that Robert Griffin III was in Washington that people felt that he was buddy there with ownership. And we're down to 27 numbers of starting QBs in the Snyder era. 27. I don't know if some teams have had 27 quarterbacks in their history. He's had 27 himself.
Yeah.
So, as we look at some of these quarterbacks that he's had here, Eugene, some of these guys have had, like, I didn't know that Jason Campbell played there for 52 games. That 52 games started for Jason Campbell is quite a bit. And some of these guys, as you look on the list here, Eugene, like Kirk Cousins, your Alex Smiths of the world, even Case Keenum and Donovan McNabb. There's a few guys, right? Case Keenum, Carson Wentz, Donovan McNabb, even Rex Grossman. I got to throw him in there. I hate to do it, but I got to. Alex Smith, Brunell, and Kirk Cousins have all had success elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. They were signing them when they were going into they're on the back 9 of their careers. All these quarterbacks that they signed were in the back 9, like Alex Smith, Donovan McNabb. Those guys were going out of the league at some point. They were like this, Mark Brunell. Those were after the Jacksonville days, So these are guys just go in the opposite direction.
At some point, just getting through some seasons here is somewhat of a success, right? 57 games started for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, at this point in time, has started the most games for Washington during the Dan Snyder. I have to go back and look. Because back in the glory days, I think it was it Theismann? I got to go back and look and see. I just pulled that out and see if it was Theismann back in the glory days for Washington. But 57 games started. It's a decent amount of games. I mean, one knock on Kirk. That he can't knock Kirk for not starting games, right?
Right.
And he puts up some stats, I guess, when we could do a whole Kirk Cousins episode where I try my hardest to cape for Kirk Cousins, who can't seem to win a game that's played past 7 p.m. But I do want to cape for him a little bit here because in Washington, going 57 games, I mean, that's under the Dan Snyder regime. I mean, that's somewhat of an accomplishment now. Do you think so?
Yeah, it's got to be pretty. It's got to be up there.
He played 50 more games than Carson Wentz. 50.
Wow.
I didn't know Carson Wentz only played 7 games for them. Like, what's that about? I really thought he played more games than that.
I did too, but I remember I think they ended up benching him at one point, or he got injured, and I just that was just a failed attempt, a failed at this thing for anyone just trying to sign Carson Wentz anything. And and now that they're still learning from their mistakes, they're going to go with the rookie quarterback starting the season. So they're still not even, they're still going backwards on the quarterbacks, in my opinion. Still,
at least the ownership gets to reset a little bit, right?
Yeah,
you're going to reset your ownership, see what happens there. Maybe, I mean, quarterback's hard to get right on any team, but with a dysfunctional owner, it's even harder because a lot of times dysfunctional owners And a lot of these owners too, and this is not just even a Dan Snyder situation. A lot of these owners you